I was 16 first time when I drink and I smoke weed. I started to take some ecstasies, and I party a lot. And all those parties, I always fight, and all the time I was meeting the more those youths who are struggle like me with that anger, with that rejection, with that rebellious. My name is Lucas. I'm from Poland, from the beautiful city on the seaside Gdynia, but I'm a citizen of the world, and this is my story. I grew up in, I think, good house. In my parents, everything was like okay, I think, and we have money and everything, but I didn't have siblings. It was very hard for me, but yeah, I was good student, but I always make problems. And always my mother was need to stay after the meeting of the parents with the teachers, because always Lucas make problems, and I was making trouble. And when my father came, because he was working a lot and he wasn't often at home, and sometimes he was angry, but I know that he punished me, but I deserve it. And always when he punished me after he was buying things me, because he blamed himself for he done something bad. And I had great contact with him, since I was young. That's why it was the very intimate relationship I had with my father, because I believe that man, for boy, it's important. Even I think in some psychological journal was saying about woman and man, what is very big impact on a life had a father. Everything was okay to the moment when the most traumatic situation for me, like a child, like a boy, when my father left. His business has collapsed, and he needed to move to US. It was far away, and I knew it that when he will move, he won't come back very, very, very soon. And it was very devastating for me, because he was my authority, and I think every man, for a boy, it's authority. And that situation was hard for me. I remember that I cried like 4 days, and I couldn't handle it. I was asking my questions for myself: how, why, and and that the moment, the rebellion inside me was like, I was so angry, and for whole world, because I lost someone important for me. That's why I start to find solution for my anger. And then I started to do evil things, because at that moment I even didn't know that the darkness was taking me in. That moment I started to be very rebellious. I didn't listen to my mother. I was rough. I fight a lot. I like fighting, because I believe that anger, what I had inside, I need to pour out somehow, that rage. And I started to party. I think I was 16 first time when I drink and I smoke weed. I started to take some ecstasies, and I party a lot. And all those parties, I always fight, and all the time I was meeting the more those youths who are struggle like me with that anger, with that rejection, with that rebellious side of them. And yeah, when I was fighting ecstasy, it's like, everyone is friends, and you are party and you're fighting, and it was like I started to be more famous, and I started to get more friends. Yeah, and of course, it's when the drugs, fighting, we start to steal, like rob people, and many stupid things what I was doing. I thought in this moment it was something cool. I think I had a situation because before it was funny. I was doing many things, and I was skater. Like I was driving on the skates, and I had long hair. And some skinheads beat me because of this, because I had long hair. And I had a cousin. Right now he's dead, but I had a cousin, my uncle, and he was bad boy and was older than me, and he came with the guys, and then everyone knows that I have a cousin, and they came from other city, like the biggest city, the Gdańsk, and like I was 14 then, and they were like 19. It was like, whoa, the 3 cars came, and immediately, like, other uncle told me, before I think he was a gangster or whatever, and he told me why I have that hair, and immediately I cut like almost bald, and I take the dress on, like jogging dress, whatever, and it was like I changed immediately for my altitude to everything. Yeah, and my mother always was on holiday. She was leaving me alone, and she was going to the summer house. At that time, it was like, I think it was 15 or 16. I bought like 10 grams of weed and alcohol and some, I think, ecstasy, and that's the moment when I started to enjoy it. Yeah, and no, I started to train. I was doing many sports, and I started to train martial arts like Thai boxing, because I felt that sport, because of that fighting sport, I will be better in the street. And it was like this, and I was training to the street fighting in a guy who was a chief of the hooligan team in my team, and it was for me authority, because those big guys who had respect, the people they're afraid of them, and it was for me, whoa, it was so exciting. I want to be there when they were, And yeah, and I was training there, and I was football fan, but I wasn't in this group of people. But one time some situation happened, and the old group, they quit because of one guy died, and they created a new group, and they asked me, do I want to be there? I said, okay, of course. Yeah, and still always was a party. I was partying one time in a week, and for me it wasn't good party without fighting. I love to fight, and this was like my thing, the anger that reigned inside me. It was like I need to pour out somewhere, and I think it was like this. And right now I understand that I was running from the reality for the fake happiness, because I was unhappy inside. And I moved to Norway because I was in university. I was selling drugs because it was like, I had the contacts and I had drugs for cheap. And at 18 I started to sniff cocaine, and I like it. I think in every party I always need to have 1 gram of cocaine with me. But I quit university because they didn't teach me nothing, and I was partying. It was one big party, and I said, why I want to learn how to make money, not learn nothing. And I moved to Norway. In the beginning, it's okay. I was working and stuff like this, but of course, in the beginning, you have idea. Okay, then we take some drugs because there is cheap. It's cheap. It's in our country, but there is expensive. And yeah, we smuggle something there, and yeah, but it was big mess because we still party all the time, and it was many situations that were happening there, and many, like right now I will try to remind them. It was so crazy. We still, like, we didn't go to shop to buy, but we went and took everything, like beers, alcohol, and we came home and we robbed some dealer from the drugs, and we have everything almost for free, like clothes in the shop. It was like big mess, and unfortunately or fortunately, the time came that I was there many times in jail for many things, for fighting and for other things, and one time they put me to the prison. And in prison I had a lot of time to think, to focus, to be sober, I said to myself that I will acknowledge, I will start to develop myself. I won't waste the time, and I will train and learn chess and stuff like this. But of course, God put on my way some Protestant guy who was reading the Bible in his cell. Other was from the Pentecostal church. And all the time, something was speaking to me. Right now God was speaking to me, because God is so creative that His voice, He can speak through everything. And I watched movies too, and 2 movies touched my heart. In that moment, I didn't know that God can speak through everything. And I watched one movie, Preacher with Machine Gun, about the history about some childers who was rough guy. He was in Hells Angel. He started drugs. He was more rougher than me because he's US. And after that, right now he's a preacher. Gerald Butler played his role, and right now he's a preacher, and he helped a lot of 1,000 children who they kidnap in Africa, who they kill them, they make them children soldiers, and he helped them. He was helping them, and I started to think, hey, one guy make a difference. What is the difference between me and him? I want to know this guy. Other movie, it was about woman who was in a rough situation. She was from orphanage, and her history was that she, when she was older, that she moved to Vietnam. She was a believer, and she helped a lot of thousands of children. One woman who was living in the street, and they were called them the shade children. And I said, 2 people, normal, casual people, they make so huge difference. They help children who are innocent, who are pure, and they don't have choice. When they, the parents, they don't have parents, and the parents are poor or whatever. And I always love children. And I said, hey, 2 people, like 2 different people, they make the difference. That moment, I didn't know that God was speaking to me. But when I went out from the prison, I started to check my Facebook. I had more than 1,000 friends, of course, friends, like the Facebook friends. And one guy who I knew from my past, I met him a few times on a party. And he had a post. He was in Africa. He wrote something about helping people and about God. And I was okay. And I wrote to him. And I know that God spoke to me through him. And I said, that moment, I think I realized maybe in my mind still was a battlefield. But I felt in my heart that the reason for my life is a God who I want to find. Because right now I know this is a full fulfillment of my inner man, of everything is God. And I wrote to him. And I said that some child, or the preacher with machine gun, his story touched me. And I said that I want to get to know him. And he sent me the picture of him, and he said, this is my friend. I can introduce you to him. And I said, whoa. In that moment, I realized that God really exists. Of course, I always believe in it. But in that moment, I started to talk with that guy. And I invited Christ to my life. But my journey started. And still, it was very rough. All my life I believe in God, and I believe that God was protecting me even in many situations. But I had 3:6 in my mail. I was saying I would go to hell and beat the Lucifer and rule the hell. It was very smart. But I moved from Poland because all the time living in this life, what I was living, it was, you cannot trust no one. You are all the time like paranoid, and it wasn't life, I had enough, and some situation even pushed me to move from Poland, and I moved to Denmark. My friend helped. He had a company in Denmark, and I started to work in Denmark. I started to live in Denmark. I moved with my ex-girlfriend, but that relationship was very, very difficult. I can say like this right now. Right now I understand more things, and one moment when we separate with my ex-girlfriend, I start to think, what is the purpose for why I'm on this planet? What I'm living for what I'm living for, why I came here. All my life I felt that I have to do something. I need to do something, some destiny what I don't know in this moment. And I started to think, why? Because I started thinking, the working, going to work and waiting for the weekend and party and stuff like this. It's not like this. And I try to find my purpose for my life. Right now I understand that, maybe even every one of us have something like this, that inside me was a small boy. And he was sitting, laying down in this darkness inside me, who was rejected. He was very sad, he was unhappy, he was lack of love. And outside was the shield, what I created because of those traumatic situations what's happened in my life. And people in the world, they used to not show what they have inside, that unhappiness, because they think there's weakness. Everything is with God is opposite what is in the world. And God said, when you are weak, you are strong, because God is our strength. And that shield was like the proud, the anger, that rejection, that I want to be famous, and I want to people have respect and afraid of me and stuff like this. This was a shield of the fake shield, that shield of the lies what was putting in my head. And that moment I didn't know, but people, they see me, people used to judge. I was like the same, and they judged, and they see what they see in their physical eyes, through my past, through what I've done, through what I'm doing in the moment. But they don't see that I was unhappy. And unhappy, it's like very tiny words for that, what I felt. And what war was on my head. And I believe that when I start to think about my purpose, only God see our hearts. And God, like step by step, He started to put the people on my way, but I still was blind because of the sinful nature. I was sinful nature, and I was still blind. And step by step, He was revealing things to me. But still, I was walking in these lies. But right now, I know that God, He saw that small boy, and He break and destroyed that shield, and He tear out that small child on His marvelous light and His unbreakable love. Right now, I'm living in the truth, and it's amazing. What I can say, the perfect love, God is perfect love. When I have a question, when you have everything around you what you love, people, animal, pet, wherever, children, family, house, environment, country, nature, when everything you have what you love, that is a perfect life. God is a perfect love. He will pour in you the perfect love. And because of that love, you love your life. You enjoy your life. You don't need to run and chase the fake happiness, drugs, alcohol, money, career, the people. But God give you a joyful life. Joyful and peace in this chaos. Mostly in this time, because we have huge chaos in the world. And I believe it will be more different. And that's why God give you the peace, love, and joy. What my biggest desire in my heart is that everyone will know our Savior and Lord and best friend Jesus Christ. How I get to know Him and getting to know Him more and more and more. And I was rough guy. I was difficult guy. And that's why right now I will work with the people like this. And I want to bring that light to your life. God bless you.